everyone, my name is Melody and thank you for clicking on this video. So a while back I read an article about this girl on TikTok, and yes, that is exactly how old I am. I didn't actually see it on TikTok. I read an article about a TikTok that someone else made, but she made this TikTok, and basically she worked at a high-scale New York City restaurant, and she rated all the different celebrities that came into the restaurant that she came across. And I thought about it and I was like, well, I certainly have never met the Kardashians, but I have come across a good amount of NHLers in my life. So today I thought I'd tell some stories about the NHLers, or the people in the NHL that I've come across, and give them a rating. If you've met any NHLers, do you have any cool stories you want to share, please leave me a comment. I love reading that kind of stuff. So I'm not really the kind of person that goes out of their way to meet famous people. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just not for me. So like, as much as I love hockey and hockey players, I'm not really one to go to signings or meet and greets or anything like that, but I have come across a good amount of NHLers just based on the jobs that I've worked in the past. So we're going to start out with the big one, and we're going to maybe be a little bit controversial, but the first person I'm going to rate is Jack Eichel, and I'm going to give him a 5 out of 10. So I've actually come across Jack Eichel twice in 2 different jobs that I worked at. The first job I worked was at a local sports memorabilia store. So the first time I came across Jack was back, it was right before his first NHL season. So the season hadn't even started yet. They got past preseason. It was a couple days before he was set to debut against Ottawa, where he scored his first goal in his first game. But so a few days before the season, he had a signing, and it was a huge signing. Like, it sold out immediately. He hadn't even played a game yet. So I didn't last long working at this sports memorabilia store. My job was essentially 11 hours a day. I was a greeter. So for 11 hours a day, I had to stand at a table at the front of the store, and every person that came in, I had to say hi, and that was pretty much it. So I only lasted about 3 months there. But so on the day of the signing, I'm all excited. I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Jack Eichel's going to come in. You know, the future superstar of our franchise. We didn't even really know much about him at this point. But so I can see him coming from all the way out in the parking lot. He's not hard to miss. He's a huge dude. He's got weird hair, you know. So he walks in, and I do what I did for everybody. Everyone that walks in, I said, hey, how you doing? So Jack Eichel walks in, I say, hey, how you doing? And Jack Eichel at this point was just walking straight ahead. He was trying to avoid eye contact, but then so when I say hi, he looks over at me, makes eye contact with me, and then turns and keeps going. He says nothing to me. And I'm like, well, that was awkward. Like, it's just funny. Like, I'm not upset about it or anything. It was just like, he was an 18-year-old kid at the time. I'm sure it was probably pretty weird being in Buffalo, where everyone kind of viewed him as like the savior of our franchise, and you know, everyone having their eyes on him at all times. So, but that was weird. Like, he made eye contact and kept walking. It was super awkward. So fast forward 5 years later, and this next story doesn't so much involve me as much as it involved my coworkers. At my other job that I worked for 6 years, I worked at one of the premier ice rinks in Western New York. I worked in guest services, so I was basically like at the front. I was, you know, the first person you see when you walk in. So I remember from the night before, when I was looking at the next day's schedule, Adam Oates, of all people, was on the schedule that booked ice time from us. And I was like, what in the world is Adam Oates doing in Buffalo? Like, why would Adam Oates be running ice from us in like the beginning of September? Like, I had no idea what the heck that was about, but I was like, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. But I didn't think much of it. So about a half hour before I was supposed to go into the rink to start my shift, I got a text from my coworker, and she's like, you'll never guess who just came up to us and we talked to at the booth. And I was like, who? And she's like, Jack Eichel. And I was like, what? Like, I always miss all the good stuff. And you know, I had some coworkers that liked the Buffalo Sabres, but there was no one that worked there that loved or is as crazy about the Buffalo Sabres as I am. And they always get all the cool stuff. But yeah, so I guess Jack Eichel, because he paid for the Adam Oates ice time, so they took a payment from him. They took his car keys and his name and everything. My one coworker was like, yeah, I wouldn't even have known who he was until, like, you know, we took his credit card payment. And I was like, duh! What do you mean you don't know who Jack Eichel is? But basically the story I was told was that he came in, he was kind of trying to, I think, not really bring much attention to himself, but we just happened to have a tournament that day. So he pays for his ice, walks around the corner, and right around the corner is this big Canadian hockey team, and they, of course, recognize him right away, so they all go up to him. They all want to get pictures with him and everything. And I guess he said that he didn't really have time for all these individual pictures, but he could take like a team picture. But I guess I was told that he ended up taking a lot of individual pictures anyway, so I guess that was pretty cool. So anyway, naturally I show up to the rink a half hour early because I have to know what the heck is going on. I go back to the rink that he was at, and it was really cool. It was just Adam Oates, Jack Eichel, and Sam Reinhart. They were just having a little mini ice session, just the 3 of them, and it was really cool. So I sat there, watched for about 10 minutes, and then went my shift, and I was fully expecting Jack Eichel to come back up to the booth and give the locker room key back so he could get his car keys back. And he never did. He sent someone else up to get him, and I think he just kind of snuck out the back, which, again, like, him and Josh Allen are, like, the #1 celebrities in Buffalo, so I could imagine not wanting to deal with being harassed by people every day. The only reason I'm ranking Jack so low, obviously because he didn't say hi to me when I said hi to him, but the vibe that I get from Jack is that he's just a very, like, I don't want to say standoffish, because I couldn't imagine being in that position, and, you know, I probably would be the same way. But he's not as, like, outwardly friendly as a lot of the people that I'm going to mention. Also, all the people that I'm going to mention aren't nearly as famous as Jack, but, you know, you get the gist. Maybe other people have different stories where he's super friendly and nice. But based on my experiences, that's the best I could do. 5 out of 10 is the best I could do. All right, moving on. Jason Pominville. I am giving Jason Pominville a 9 out of 10. Super, super, super friendly guy. Always smiling. He would come into the rink with his son. His son, I would guess, is probably like 9 or 10 years old. And they would do like the skate and shoot. But yeah, very friendly, always smiling, very polite. And you could tell, the thing I love about Jason is you could tell how much he clearly loves being a dad. I remember the one time he showed up really early for the skate and shoot, so the locker room wasn't open yet, so I had to take him down there and open the locker room for him. His son was just kind of like talking, and it just seemed like everything his son said he would just genuinely crack up at. Which I just thought, I don't know, I just thought that was really cool. But yeah, super friendly guy. Very, very awesome to all of our staff. So yeah, I'll give Palmer a 9 out of 10. All right, next is Kyle Okposo, current Sabres forward Kyle Okposo. I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10. Same thing with Jason. He would bring in his son to the skate and shoots, but his son is little. I think he's like 2 or 3 years old, his son Odin. He wasn't as like outwardly friendly as Jason Pominville, but he also, like, he was very nice, very polite, smiled a lot. He wouldn't actually go out on the ice with his son. He would just buy a ticket for his 3-year-old son, put his son on the ice, and then he'd go in the stands and watch his son just skate around, which I thought was hysterical. That's the thing with Kyle. I know I rag on him a lot for his high cap number for basically being a fourth liner, but like I don't think anyone will tell you that he's not an awesome guy. Like, he just seems like a very genuinely good person, so can't complain, I guess. All right, next up is former Sabres head coach Lindy Ruff, and I'm giving Lindy Ruff a 10 out of 10. Everyone in Buffalo, I feel like, loves Lindy, but when I was a kid, there were a bunch of Sabres. I think they were just having like a charity bowling thing at Dave & Buster's, and I remember they were advertising on the radio, so my dad was like, hey, you want to just go see some Sabres bowl? And I was like 11 years old. I was like, of course I do. So there were a bunch of guys there bowling, and they would all take their turns going up to the people that were there watching them and signing autographs. There weren't a ton of us, but I think I was the only person genuinely there to see them. The rest were clearly like autograph hounds. I actually didn't have anything to sign. I just kind of thought it was going to be like you just watched and you weren't going to get autographs. So we actually had to go into the claw machine. We paid to play the claw machine, and I ended up winning this. And you can see there's a Rob Ray's signature there, but that's really the only signature I can really make out. But Lindy Ruff was so awesome. Like, he was going up and he was signing autographs for people, but since he saw me as kind of like the only like kid there, the only one that was like actually really excited to see her idols and everything, he made sure he went out of his way, took the time to like make sure I was having fun. And when he signed this, I was like so excited. I was like, thank you so much. And he looked at me as if like he was surprised that I had such good manners, I guess. I don't know. And he looked at me, he was like, you're welcome. You're very welcome. And I was like, oh, that's our coach. A couple years later, I would actually end up playing basketball against his daughter, so that's pretty cool. Speaking of former Sabres coaches, next on the list is Dan Bilesma. Now, he gets a 0 out of 10 for his coaching, but I will give him a 10 out of 10 for my experience with him. First of all, he's way bigger than I thought he would be. He's a real tall dude. And here I am, 5'2", like, just look it up at him. But we were in Chicago, so I have, my cousin lives in Chicago, and so we try to go as much as possible to the Sabres Blackhawks games. They have a Bills backer bar called Lincoln Station there, and every year when the Sabres play the Blackhawks, they do like a bus trip where everyone goes to the bar beforehand, and then they all go to the game together on a school bus, and it's real fun. I miss doing that. But specifically that year, they had the Sabres Road Crew, which is essentially they get a bunch of like, you know, alumni to come to a specific bar where they can meet and greet with fans and everything. So Dan Bilesma was there, and we went up to him and we just asked for a quick picture with him. He's there, he's in like a real classy outfit, and while all the other guys were drinking their beer, he had like this glass of red wine, like, legend. So after the picture, we're like, okay, cool, thanks, man. Like, just thinking he'd go walk away and do his thing, but he stopped and he's like, yeah, so where are you guys from? And he like is asking us all these questions, like he wants to get to know us, and he was like asking us where we were going to be sitting at the game and all this cool stuff. And I just thought that was really cool. Like it definitely seemed like he was genuinely interested. It didn't seem like phony or anything. So that just felt really cool. We didn't end up winning that game. We've never seen the Sabres actually beat the Blackhawks in Chicago despite how many times we've gone. But that was pretty cool. Also there at the Sabres Road Crew was Brian Duff, and he's getting a 10 out of 10 also. Like, I feel like everyone just loves Brian Duff. Like, there's no one, like, I don't know how you can dislike Brian Duff. Like, you see Brian Duff on TV, he's always smiling, he's always positive, he just always seems like he's in a good mood, and that's exactly how he was at the Road Crew event too. Very happy, very outgoing, super nice talking to him too, 10 out of 10. And finally, also at the Road Crew event was none other than Buffalo Sabres legend, play-by-play announcer Rick Jeanneret, and I will give him a 100 out of 10. I said earlier that I don't like to go out of my way to meet famous people, but I had to meet him. He is like my entire childhood. He's one of my favorite humans on the face of this earth, and he was everything I thought he would be. There were a ton of other guys that were there, like Rob Ray was there, Danny Gare was there, Rene Robert. They were all just kind of walking around mingling, but RJ just kind of picked a spot. He found a seat at a table and just picked a spot and just had a whole line of people coming up to him the entire night. So we go up to him, we finally get our turn, and I was actually wearing, like, they had hats made, Sabres hats made, and they said RJ on the side because he was battling cancer. So all the proceeds went to Roswell Park Cancer Institute in Buffalo. I was wearing that hat, but I was so excited to meet him that I forgot to ask him to sign it, which, like, that sounds like exactly something I would do. He was just so cool to talk to, and obviously you're talking to him and you hear his voice that you hear every game night the Sabres play. And then I remember, like, one of the people that we were with asked him to do, like, a personal message to one of their friends. So they got him to say top shelf where mama hides the cookies. So being able to, like, see Rick Jeanneret say top shelf where mama hides the cookies live in person was like, oh my god. Yeah, like, of all people, I'm so fortunate that I was able to meet Rick Jeanneret and get a picture with him. He's just one of the very few people that I would have definitely had to at some point in my life gone out of my way to get a chance to meet him, because he's just incredible. 100 out of 10. So next on the list is Marty Baron, and Marty Baron was the Sabres goaltender for a bunch of years. After he retired, he came back, and he now is a part of the Sabres TV team. I met Marty Baron when I was about 11 or 12 years old. I was with my mom, and we were watching the news, and the news was out in a grocery store parking lot, and they were, like, broadcasting live from there saying that they had this lamp that they were willing to sell off for charity. Marty Baron signed it. It was a Buffalo Sabres lamp. It just so happened that the grocery store is literally right around the corner from our house, and we're watching it, and time goes on, and like, they're still advertising for it, like, no one bought it. So my mom looks at me and she's like, you want to go get that lamp? And I was like, yeah. So we go over, we drive around the corner, go up to it was the weather guy that was actually advertising. We go up to him, we're like, hey, did anyone buy that lamp? Yeah. And they're like, no, it's all yours if you want it. So we buy the lamp, and then the weatherman goes over to Marty Baron, and he's like, hey, Marty, these are the people that bought your lamp. So Marty Baron is super famous for being a chatterbox, and also famous for having, like, the most ridiculously good looking eyes in the history of the world. But, you know, so there I am as a little kid looking up to Marty Baron. He's tall, and I'd heard, like, the rumors that he was a chatterbox, but to see it live, like, it was basically like, hey guys, how are you? You guys bought my lamp, thank you so much, it's really cool, you know, it's a really great cause it's going to, and it's really cool, you guys Sabres fans, I think we really got a good team this year, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not what he said, but, like, it was basically like that, like, he would not shut up, and it was getting to the point where we were like, okay, anyways, thanks, Marty, we gotta go, bye. But yeah, that was pretty funny. So I'll give Marty an 11 out of 10, because he's hysterical. I crack up every time that guy talks. Everyone in Buffalo loves Marty. He's a good one. All right, next up is Brian Campbell, one of my all-time favorite Buffalo Sabres. I met Brian Campbell at a signing when I was a kid. Brian Campbell was a defenseman for the Sabres, and I think they traded him in, like, what, 2008-ish? But yeah, fan favorite. Everyone loved Soupy. He went on to win the Stanley Cup with the Chicago Blackhawks, passed the puck to Patrick Kane, who scored the overtime goal in 2010. So I met him in a sports store for a signing, and super, super, super friendly. I'm a really shy person, so I don't really say much in these kind of situations anyway, but my mom was with me, and she doesn't really care about sports either way. And this was right after that 2006 playoff run, so after he was famous for absolutely knocking RJ Umberger out. So my mom looks at him and she goes, are you the guy that hit that hamburger guy? And Brian Campbell just, like, laughs, and he's like, you mean Umberger? And she's like, oh, well, what do I know? And he's like, yeah. And I was mortified. I was like, Mom, you are embarrassing me. Know your shit. Yeah, I still have what he signed. But yeah, this is what he signed. It's a little Sabres midi helmet. We actually ended up going around a second time because we called my aunt. My aunt actually wanted one of these too. So we go back in, and he looks at me and he's like, you again? And it's just, I don't know, he's super cool. On the flip side of that, there was another Saber at that signing who was getting a 1 out of 10, and that is Derek Roy. Derek Roy was there too. You can see he signed it there. Derek Roy gets a straight up 1 out of 10. We go to Derek Roy after, like, just seeing Brian Campbell was the nicest guy. We go over to Derek Roy, and he's just, like, clearly there because he has to be. Like, he's just, like, taking things, signing it, and wanting people to move on their way. So my mom asks him if he can take a picture with me, and so I turn around, and I'm smiling, but I can't see Derek Roy behind me, and my mom puts the camera down, and like I said, she doesn't care, so she's like, "Can you smile?" And so Derek Roy smiles, I guess, and then I turn around, and by the time I turn around, I look up at him, and he major league rolls his eyes. Like, it was a hard eye roll, but then he signs my thing, and then, you know, doesn't really say much. But yeah, I think that's my only really bad grade is Derek Roy here. All right, next up is Rob Ray, and Rob Ray was, like, you know, one of the famous fighters back in the day when fighting was a thing. Now he's like the between the benches guy for the Sabres. I would see Rob Ray all the time at the ice rink that I worked at. I think he had a kid on a team that he coached or something, I don't know, but he would always come up and get the locker room key from us. And the thing about Rob Ray, one, you always know when he enters the building, even if it's from the other side, because that dude is loud, and he has a very loud, heavy, projecting voice. Two, the funny thing about Rob Ray is that, like, the rule is when you sign out a locker room key, you have to give us your last name, your phone number, and a set of car keys, and then we sign out the locker room key to you. Rob Ray would always give very, very obviously fake phone numbers. Like, he would, of course, give the 867-5309, like, give all fives, you know, like, he'd do that. The one time, one of my coworkers told me that he gave a phone number that was like 869-69 or something, which is kind of funny. But yeah, he was the only person, like, obviously anyone can give a fake phone number, and we would never know about it, but he was the only person that I've ever come across that just gave blatantly fake phone numbers. He was always friendly, he was always, you know, always seemed to be just laughing about everything, so yeah, I'll give him a 7 out of 10. It would be higher, but the fake phone numbers are, Alright, so next up is Andrew Peters, and Andrew Peters, you know, like Rob Ray, not much more than kind of just a fighter. The story I have with him is actually pretty funny. So it was back, I think it was about 2004, the Sabres had like a kids' day game, and what they did was after the game, all the players would come out into the concourse area, and they would go to different spots along in the arena, and they would sign autographs, and they definitely do not do that anymore. I think that was the last time they ever did that. So the Sabres, they played the game, they won, and then all the players came out for autographs. If you guys have watched previous videos of mine, you know my favorite player is Max Afinogenov. I loved Max Afinogenov, but his line was a mile long, and they couldn't promise that everyone in line was going to get autographs. So instead of waiting for Max, we just decided to kind of go to like the shorter lines of the players that no one wanted to go to. So we go up to Andrew Peters' table, and he's just sitting there. No one's at his table. He has like a whole stack of like little 3x5s with him on it that, you know, he would just sign and give away. And so we go up to him, why not? He's a Sabre. I was probably like 10 years old at the time, so I don't care. So we go up to him, and you could tell he was like super excited to have people to sign autographs for, but he was really polite and friendly, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing? Here you go." Like, all excited to give us his autograph, but that's pretty funny. I remember that. So yeah, we'll give Andrew Peters an 8 out of 10. He was nice. Yeah, and then I guess a bunch of just other people that I've come across. Jim Lorenz, he was a former Sabre. He was the color guy working with RJ for all those years until he retired. He actually coached a high school hockey team in the area, so he would come in all the time. It was just so cool to hear his voice for the first time in such a long time, because after he retired, you never really heard from him. To be able to, like, hear his voice again, even if it's just, like, saying, "Hey, how you doing? I need this locker room key." That was pretty cool. But he was a really, really nice guy. 10 out of 10. And then there was Todd Marchand, Stanley Cup champion with the Anaheim Ducks. He runs a summer camp at the rink every year. He's from the Western New York area. He and I actually went to the same high school. We'll give him a solid 8 out of 10. The thing I loved about Todd Marchand is that, like, a lot of times when you get these hockey camps coming in over the summer, a lot of people that run them are very, very, very needy. And, like, they come up to you every 5 seconds for something different, which, you know, it's our job, but it gets annoying after a while. Todd Marchand was always very self-sufficient. He knew what he needed. He kind of took care of it himself. So it was always very appreciated. Super nice guy. 8 out of 10. So then lastly, this one really isn't as much of a rating as much as it is kind of like just players that I've come across, but my favorite part about working at the ice rink every year was in like June, July, we'd have this like massive USA Hockey development camp, and so all the best kids in their age group would come in and they'd have like a big week-long camp. And it was really cool because scouts from all over, like NHL scouts, college scouts, junior scouts would come in and watch. So it was a huge event. The 17-year-olds would go first, the 16-year-olds would go second, and then the 15-year-olds would go last. And I keep all these programs from every year because, you know, they're kids, so at that point I wouldn't really know who they are, but you'll never know what really, I guess, they become. So basically that week my job would be to sit at a table and check them all in because they come in from all over the place. So they come in, check in at the rink at the desk first, and then I direct them where to go, how they find their coaches and their team and whatnot. But yeah, like looking back, some of these names is so funny. Like you got like Alex DeBrincat, Brady Tkachuk, Casey Middlestat, Cole Caulfield, Alex Turcotte, Ryan Poehling, Brock Besser was there, Tage Thompson, Kyler Yamamoto, and I'm sure there's a bunch more that I'm just. Luke Hughes was there. He's a prospect in next year's draft, brother of Jack and Quinn. So obviously I can't rate any of them because I really don't remember my experience with them because you don't really know who they are when they come up to you. But I'll tell you, like, I used to get such amusement out of these kids because, like, here they are, NHL hopefuls, and they are just, like, every single kid is just so, like, I don't know if they were nervous to be there or what, but, like, half the kids, I swear to God, I would ask them for their name, and then I would have to ask them to repeat their name, because I don't know if you've ever run into a teenage boy, but they're so like, ugh. I'd ask them their name all the time, and they'd just be so quiet, and I could never hear them. I don't know why. I don't know why that's the thing with teenage boys, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, I would always, after my shift was over, sneak out and watch as much of the development camp as I can, because I used to really love scouting and all that stuff. It used to be my dream to be an NHL scout, but like I've said before, the Sabres have killed my love of all things hockey, so I don't really do as much prospect scouting anymore as I used to, but that used to be my favorite part of the job, and it's cool to look back on, I think. So thank you for watching this video. Again, if you have any stories you want to share, please let me know. I'd love to hear them. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The NHL offseason is not too far away, so we have a lot of really fun stuff. Definitely subscribe and hit the bell notification button if you haven't already. I will see you soon. Go Bills. Bye, guys.